Imagine you're driving flat out on the Autobahn at like 308 kilometers per hour.
Which is just an insane speed to even process.
Right. Your foot is completely pinned to the floor, and the car directly in front of you suddenly, out of nowhere, throws out this invisible anchor.
Yeah, you'd have zero time to react.
Exactly. And that terrifying scenario wasn't, some computer simulation. That was reality this weekend at the legendary Suzuka circuit.
I mean, we've spent the last 48 hours just ripping through post-race telemetry, the FIA briefing notes, unfiltered team radios.
Yeah, trying to figure out exactly what happened during this absolutely chaotic round 3 of the 2026 season. Because right now we are staring down this completely unexpected 5-week break before we hit Miami.
Right, due to the cancellations in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so today this deep dive is your definitive guide to a weekend of just pure high-octane madness. Welcome to DRS Zone, by the way.
The word chaos almost undersells it, honestly. When you look at the data we've compiled, we are witnessing a perfect storm right now.
Oh, 100%.
The whole grid hierarchy has been completely shattered. I mean, engineering departments are scrambling to even understand their own machinery.
And the championship narrative has taken this violent turn that nobody could have modeled just 3 races into this new regulation cycle.
It's stunning.
It really is. I mean, we're watching a 19-year-old rookie just seize the world championship lead. We have reigning titans of the sport literally drowning in the midfield.
Yeah, and of course, that heart-stopping 50G impact that has the entire paddock absolutely reeling today.
We're going to unpack the mechanics, the psychology, everything behind all of it for you. But first, we have to start with the incident that silenced the entire circuit.
Yeah, we have to.
And really quick, this segment is part of our news coverage of recent F1 events. So breaking down the telemetry from that massive incident involving Haas's Oliver Bearman and Alpine's Franco Colapinto.
It was just a terrifying reminder of the physical forces these guys are playing with under the new 2026 power unit regs.
It truly was. Because Bearman was flying, the speed trap had him pushing like 308 kilometers per hour.
Right.
And he goes for this move on Colapinto, but Colapinto is in a harvesting zone. For those listening, that means Colapinto's car is actively regenerating electrical energy.
Which results in a sudden, just extreme speed differential between the two cars.
Exactly. So Bearman has milliseconds to react. He tries to take evasive action, loses the rear, and suffers a 50G impact straight into the barriers.
It's a miracle he escaped with just contusions to his foot, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. But going back to that Autobahn analogy, it's the exact equivalent of swerving at top speed to avoid a parked car in the fast lane.
Yeah, that analogy perfectly isolates the physics problem here. Because under the 2026 regulations, the internal combustion engine and the electrical system split the power output, like 50-50.
Yeah, right.
And because they rely so heavily on that electrical power, the MGUK, the motor generator unit that harvests kinetic energy under braking, it has to be incredibly aggressive.
So when a driver enters that harvesting phase, it's not subtle.
Not at all. The electrical resistance applied to the rear axle acts like a heavy invisible brake. The drag just increases exponentially.
Wow.
So Colapinto enters the corner, and his car physically decelerates at an extreme rate to recharge the battery. Bearman, meanwhile, is fully committed in the slipstream, expecting, normal racing speeds.
And here's the part that I just cannot wrap my head around. The stewards looked at all of this data, right? All the telemetry, and there were 0 penalties awarded.
Nothing.
Nothing. How do you have a crash of that magnitude caused by a speed difference that severe and the governing body just waves it on?
Well, because the stewards are bound by the letter of the law, right? Not the spirit of it. They can only enforce the rule book exactly as it's written today.
Okay, but...
And currently, there is not a single clause in the sporting regs that explicitly forbids a driver from defending their position while their car is in a heavy harvesting phase.
That is just wild.
Colapinto made a defensive move, which, is his right as a racing driver, but he did it while his car was inherently traveling at a much lower speed.
Right.
The stewards reviewed it, verified his steering inputs, and realized that technically no rules were broken. It just exposed a gaping, dangerous loophole in the 2026 rules.
But I gotta push back on that logic. Because
Yeah.
they already identified this exact scenario.
I know, I know.
We have the notes from the driver's briefing back in Australia. The race director specifically warned the grid about the severe dangers of defending in these new harvesting zones.
Yeah, especially through high-speed sections like the S's at Suzuka.
Exactly. So if the FIA knew this was a ticking time bomb, isn't it completely their failure for not formalizing a hard rule before someone got sent into a tire wall at 50 Gs?
That is the critical question. And your frustration is exactly what the team principals are expressing behind closed doors right now.
I mean, they have to be furious.
Oh, they are. Because verbal warnings in a driver's briefing are just requests. They aren't enforceable sporting code. The FIA essentially asked for a gentleman's agreement among 20 of the most ruthless competitors on the planet.
Which is just incredibly naive.
Totally naive. Writing a regulation that dictates exactly how and when a driver can change their line while mapping their engine modes is technically complex, sure, but it's no longer optional.
Right.
The one silver lining of this sudden 5-week break before Miami is that the FIA has the time to urgently rewrite these rules. They have the telemetry, they have the wrecked Haas chassis as proof, and they just have to act.
They really do, because we can't rely on structural luck when human beings are traveling at over 300 kilometers per hour.
Exactly.
But look, as chaotic as that incident was, the resulting safety car completely ripped up the strategic script of the Japanese Grand Prix.
Oh, he wiped out all the time gaps.
Yeah. And it played directly into the hands of a teenager who is currently rewriting the rules of engagement in Formula One.
That safety car was the undeniable inflection point of the race, for sure.
We are talking about Kimi Antonelli, 19 years old, taking the victory at Suzuka and walking away as your new world championship leader.
It's unbelievable.
It is. But let's be clear, this was not a pristine lights to flag masterclass. When the race started, Antonelli had a horrific getaway.
Oh, it was brutal.
He suffered severe wheel spin, completely bogged down off the line, and plummeted from pole position down to, 6th or 7th place?
Yeah, around 7.
But the BEARMAN safety car reset the pack, brought him right back into the fight, and from there, his raw pace and clean air simply took over.
Yeah, we have to look at why that start went so wrong, and then why his recovery was so brilliant. Because the 2026 power units deliver instantaneous electrical torque to the rear wheels.
Right, there's no lag.
Zero lag. So if a driver misses the clutch bite point by a millimeter, the rear tires immediately break traction, which is exactly what happened to Antonelli.
But what is fascinating to me here is the psychological resilience.
Absolutely.
I mean, most 19-year-olds would completely unravel after botching a start from pole at a circuit as punishing as Suzuka.
Yeah, but Antonelli didn't. He conserved his tires in the dirty air, that turbulent wake behind the cars ahead, and when the safety car grouped everyone up, he pounced.
Yeah, he did.
Once he had clean air, his telemetry was just breathtaking. He wasn't fighting the Mercedes. He was flowing with it.
Which is the starkest possible contrast to what we saw on the other side of the Mercedes garage.
Oh, man.
Because you have George Russell, right, the veteran, the driver who has spent years positioning himself to be the undisputed team leader now that Hamilton is gone.
Right.
And he finishes a very mediocre P4. He sounded disorganized on the radio all weekend, constantly complaining about the setup. He couldn't find the balance, and he was glaringly outpaced by a rookie.
Well, Suzuka is a track that ruthlessly exposes a lack of front-end confidence. If you don't trust that the front tires will bite into the asphalt through those high-speed changes of direction, you bleed lap time.
Yeah, and you could see it.
Russell's setup struggles indicated he was constantly overdriving the car, trying to mathematically force a lap time that the aerodynamic balance just wouldn't support.
Whereas Antonelli just seemed dialed in.
Exactly. Antonelli seems to drive entirely by feel, naturally finding the sweet spot of the tire's grip limit without overstepping it.
It reminds me of the difference between, a musician playing entirely by ear versus someone staring at the sheet music, getting incredibly frustrated that the notes they're reading don't sound right in the room.
That's a great way to put it.
Antonelli is just playing the music. But I want to ask you, and I want you listening to consider this too, is the safety car just masking Antonelli's flaws?
What do you mean?
If we didn't have that crash, he is likely stuck in dirty air in 7th place, and we are talking about his disastrous start today. Or is George Russell genuinely crumbling under the pressure of this teenage prodigy?
Well, if we look at the broader telemetry trends, it leans heavily toward Russell feeling the heat.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, yes, the safety car bailed Antonelli out of a strategic hole, but a safety car only gives you track position. You still have to deliver the lap times when the track goes green.
That's a fair point.
Antonelli's pace advantage over Russell in the second stint wasn't a fluke of strategy. It was a demonstration of superior car control.
Wow.
Russell isn't just fighting a difficult setup, he is fighting the terrifying realization that his rookie teammate might simply possess a higher natural ceiling. And in Formula One, that realization can dismantle a driver's confidence overnight.
It really feels like a civil war is brewing at Mercedes. But look, while Russell and Antonelli are fighting for dominance internally, they need to pay very close attention to the external threats right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Because while Mercedes is dealing with these setup headaches, we saw a papaya-colored garage and a garage in red actively solving those exact problems.
The development race is accelerating so fast, and the gap to Mercedes is virtually gone.
Yeah, let's look at McLaren. They arrived in Japan with a massive upgrade package targeting their power unit deployment and aerodynamic balance, and it delivered immediately.
It was incredibly effective.
Oscar Piastri put on an absolute clinic. He dominated the early stages in clean air, looking incredibly composed, and secured a brilliant P2 finish.
He looked fundamentally more comfortable in that machinery than Lando Norris, who really struggled with tire wear and crossed the line down in P8.
Yeah, so what was the difference there?
Well, Piastri's performance basically validates McLaren's entire engineering philosophy for these 2026 regulations. We mentioned earlier how complex the 50-50 split between combustion and electrical power is.
Right.
McLaren brought an upgrade that refined exactly how that electrical energy is deployed out of low-speed traction zones.
Okay.
And Piastri has this famously smooth, clinical driving style. He manages the slip angle of the car perfectly, meaning he doesn't slide the tires laterally.
Oh, gotcha. While Norris is a bit more aggressive.
Exactly. Norris relies on throwing the car into the corner. That hustle generates excess surface temperature on the tires. So with this new McLaren setup, Piastri's smoothness preserved the rubber, while Norris's aggression just overheated it.
That makes total sense. And if we are going to talk about preserving rubber, we have to talk about the masterclass Charles Leclerc delivered for Ferrari.
Oh, unbelievable.
The breathtaking P3 finish. He dropped back early in the race, but in the closing stages, he mounts this ferocious charge. He hunts down Lewis Hamilton and pulls off a pass on a 7-time world champion.
And the mechanism behind that pass is what's truly mind-blowing.
Right, because Leclerc executed that pass while running on tires that were 5 laps older than Hamilton's. He is like a tire whisperer, pulling off a literal magic trick to steal that podium.
It completely defies conventional racing logic. Suzuka is a high-degradation track. The asphalt is incredibly abrasive.
Yeah.
If your tires are 5 laps older than the car behind you, you are mathematically supposed to be a sitting duck.
So how did he do it?
Well, if you look at Leclerc's onboard telemetry, you can see exactly how. He was aggressively manipulating his brake bias, shifting the braking power toward the front wheels.
Okay, break that down for us. Why does shifting the brakes to the front help him defend from Hamilton?
Because when you brake, the weight of the car transfers forward. By shifting the brake bias to the front, Leclerc was purposefully punishing his front tires on corner entry.
Wait, to save the rears.
Exactly, to take all the thermal load off his rear tires. He sacrificed his entry speed, which allowed him to pivot the car early and ensure he had maximum cool rubber on the rear tires for traction on the exit.
Oh, wow.
He fundamentally changed his driving style mid-race to guarantee he had the acceleration out of the corners to keep Hamilton behind him on the straights. It was just an astonishing display of situational awareness.
So, synthesizing all of this, Antonelli's raw pace, McLaren's upgrades, Leclerc's tactical genius, what does this mean for the rest of the 2026 season? Because after the first 2 rounds, the narrative was that Mercedes might just, run away with the championship.
Yeah, that narrative is dead. The data tells us we have a legitimate multi-team dogfight on our hands.
Which is awesome.
Mercedes has clear vulnerabilities. McLaren has unequivocally closed the hardware gap. And Ferrari, in the hands of a driver like Leclerc, possesses a race day execution that can overcome minor aerodynamic deficits.
So we've got a real battle.
We are looking at a scenario where 3, possibly 4 teams can fight for race wins strictly on merit.
That is exactly what we want to see. But, while it is thrilling at the bleeding edge of the grid, if we shift our focus backward, we are watching empires actively crumble.
Yeah, it's brutal.
While the innovators are soaring, some of the sport's biggest giants are just drowning in the midfield.
It's a stark reminder of how unforgiving engineering missteps are in modern Formula One.
Well, let's start with the absolute disaster unfolding at Red Bull. Max Verstappen, the defining driver of the last regulation era, was knocked out in Q2.
Unthinkable.
For anyone new to the qualifying format, that means he didn't even make it into the top 10 shootout. Red Bull brought highly visible aerodynamic upgrades to Suzuka, but Verstappen spent the entire weekend just screaming on the radio about having zero grip.
Yeah, and during the race, he was hopelessly stuck behind Pierre Gasly's Alpine.
Right. Now, Gasly drove a brilliant defensive race to finish P7, but Max Verstappen stuck behind an Alpine. Red Bull is genuinely operating as the fourth or fifth fastest team on the grid right now.
What we are seeing at Red Bull is the catastrophic danger of ground effect aerodynamics. It comes down to a concept called CFD correlation.
Okay.
CFD is computational fluid dynamics. It's basically the virtual wind tunnel on their computers.
Right.
When what the engineers see on their screens does not match how the air actually behaves under the car on real bumpy asphalt, the team is flying blind.
So the computers are essentially lying to them about how the car will perform.
Exactly. Red Bull brought a floor upgrade that theoretically generated more downforce in the wind tunnel. But real-world asphalt isn't a flat wind tunnel build.
It's bumpy, it's uneven.
Yeah. The car's ride height changes constantly as it goes over curbs and bumps. So when Red Bull put the car on the track, the aerodynamic center of pressure shifted unpredictably.
And Max hates that.
Right. Verstappen's driving style relies entirely on a razor-sharp, predictable front end. He likes a car that turns in aggressively, even if the rear is loose. But because the aero platform was failing, he couldn't lean on the front tires at all.
Wow.
When a generational talent tells you the car has no grip, it means the fundamental aerodynamic philosophy has failed.
It is jarring to see a dynasty like Red Bull this lost. But they aren't the only ones hemorrhaging time. Look at the misery over at Aston Martin.
Yeah, that was painful to watch.
This was Honda's home race. They're the engine supplier for Aston Martin, meaning the corporate pressure was astronomical. And while Fernando Alonso miraculously survived the chaos to drag his car to P7, his teammate Lance Stroll suffered a DNF due to a battery-related water leak.
And beyond the reliability, the car was just nowhere.
Driving that Aston Martin right now sounds like trying to sprint through waist-deep water. I mean, the faster they try to push in the high-speed sectors, the more the aerodynamic drag just pulls them backward. Their race pace is dead last.
Dead last, and worryingly devoid of a clear development direction. Stroll's water leak highlights a separate issue, which is the immense thermal challenge of cooling these 2026 power units.
Right.
But even before the mechanical failure, the car was fundamentally slow. Alonso securing P7 is a testament strictly to his legendary racecraft and survival instincts, not the capability of the machinery.
Aston Martin invested heavily to challenge the top three, and instead, they are just stalling out.
Yeah, they are.
And then you have the grinders at the very back of the pack. Williams is an immense pain, with Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon fighting for scraps around P14 and P15.
Just a tough weekend for them.
And we have to talk about the brand new Cadillac team. Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez survived the carnage to cross the finish line, but they were running 4 full seconds off the pace.
4 seconds is a massive margin in Formula One, yeah.
Yeah.
But you really have to view Cadillac's weekend through a completely different lens than the rest of the grid.
Okay, I have to push back hard on this. Why should we give them a pass? Should we really be applauding a team just for crossing the finish line?
I think we should, yeah.
But they have Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez behind the wheel, 2 multi-race winners, guys who have actively fought for championships, and we're giving them a pat on the back for trundling around 4 seconds off the pace.
Yes, we absolutely should, because the context is crucial here. You have to contrast the excusable growing pains of a team built from scratch against the systemic failures of a defending champion like Red Bull.
Okay, I hear you.
Cadillac didn't buy an existing functioning Formula One team. They had to pour the concrete for the factory, build the IT infrastructure from nothing, calibrate a brand new wind tunnel, and integrate hundreds of engineers who had never worked in the same room before.
That is a massive undertaking.
To take all of those disparate elements and produce 2 race cars that can physically survive a grueling high-speed race at Suzuka without detonating. That is a monumental logistical triumph.
So it's about the baseline of expectations then.
It's exactly. Red Bull has limitless resources, a decade of championship-winning infrastructure, and they can't figure out why their floor doesn't work. Cadillac is learning how to walk. Red Bull forgot how to run.
Wow. Learning how to walk versus forgetting how to run. When you frame it like that, it really puts the collapse of these legacy teams into a harsh, glaring light.
It does.
The established hierarchy we have known for years hasn't just been disrupted, it has been shattered in the span of 3 weekends.
The tectonic plates of the sport have shifted permanently, which makes this upcoming 5-week development window the most critical engineering period we have seen in modern Formula One history.
Which leaves us staring at a massive, lingering question to debate during this break. Think about the landscape we just mapped out.
Yeah.
You have Max Verstappen, a generational titan, suffocating in a broken car. You have the ambitious Aston Martin project sinking into the midfield. And standing above all of them, you have a 19-year-old kid in Kimi Antonelli, seizing the championship lead, unbothered by the pressure, and rewriting the rules at Mercedes.
It's wild.
So I ask you listening, are we witnessing the definitive, brutal end of an era and the birth of a brand new Formula One world order? What do you think?
The data certainly points to a changing of the guard, but, in Formula One, 5 weeks is a lifetime. The teams that solve their correlation issues now will define the rest of the decade.
The countdown to Miami starts right now. Keep your adrenaline pumping and stay locked into the madness by following the DRS Zone podcast on all platforms.
You won't want to miss it.
We are bringing the heat, the data, and the debate on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube all through this 5-week break. You do not want to miss what we uncover next. Until then, keep living in the zone.